Hi there folks, my name's Novawing24 and welcome to a special episode of the Three Grumpy Simmers. As you may have noticed, we have been joined by another Grumpy Simmer to make 4 Grumpy Simmers this week, but we are joined of course by my regular cohorts, my regular grumpiness, brothers in grumpiness. We're joined by Sergio from helisimmer.com.
Hey guys, how you doing?
And we are joined of course by the infamous purple hat wearing metalhead loving Bel Geode. And we are joined on this special auspicious post-expo edition of the Three Grumpy Simmers by FlightSimGuy.
Hey guys.
Welcome on board, FlightSimGuy. So, folks, we are following up on our special episode that we aired last time where we were excited about the fact that there were 2 really cool conferences happening in the US for our flight simulation community, all sort of bracketing the 3 events. And it was going to give it, we were going to be our wonderful esteemed member Belgeode, Drew, was going to be heading there and asking your questions. And we're going to, he's come back to give us a report, and we're joined again, as I said, we're joined by FlightSimGuy, because he was also in attendance at FlightSimExpo, and he's just sort of to give his opinions, his thoughts as well, because it's always great to have a couple of different opinions and different views and ways of looking at these conferences. So, essentially, Sergio and I are sort of going to be handing the reins over to these 2 guys today to sort of, which is a bit of a scary thought, but anyway. So basically,
I'll just go away now. Okay.
we're just going to shuffle on. But actually, no, I do know Sergio is dying to know if there was an R22 in attendance at FlightSimExpo. But basically, to the 2 Drews, tell us, regale us. Probably start with, what's your overall impression of the weekend? That's probably the first place to start.
Awesome. But before I get into all of that, I need to make an announcement. Mr. FlightSimGuy was instrumental in this whole FlightSimExpo experience for me. So a lot of the video that you have seen both on my channel and of course on his channel was all provided by that man right there. Not only that, but he even got a major shout out from Laminar Research. They utilized his video as their official coverage of FlightSimExpo. So there you go.
Yeah, I did see that. Congratulations. Cool. So folks, don't forget, if you haven't already, make sure you check out FlightSimGuy's channel. All the links will be in the description down below. But yes, continue on, boys.
Go ahead on, sir.
All right. First of all, thank you very much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it. So, question is, my impressions of FlightSim. FlightSim. What am I thinking? It's too early in the morning. My first impression of FlightSimExpo.
But by the way, folks, it is 0 dark 30 in the eastern US at the moment. So I feel for them and the fact that they're probably running on a half a cup of coffee at the moment. So yes, but yes, do continue.
FlightSimExpo, I was blown away. There was over 1,000 people there. Okay, so first of all, the conference was just massive. A lot of people there, and it was in the middle of Vegas. So there was, for me, it was too much stimulation. I didn't even get to see half the things that the hotel had to offer. I spent most of my time running around making videos and providing coverage. I didn't even get to spend as much time as I wanted to with the displays. So I was blown away. I didn't think that was that many simmers or fans of flight simulation that would actually show up at a conference. So I was blown away. First thing. Second thing, the presentations was very, very good. I was, really taken away, and I learned a lot, and I've been applying what I've learned since then. So the folks that put together that conference, they did a very good job. And I had a good time.
What sort of presentations, where you said that you sort of learned a lot of things and took a lot of lessons away. So what sort of presentations? I know there were a couple that I was hoping to see. Unfortunately, I couldn't make it. But which ones did you take the biggest takeaways from?
The biggest takeaways I got were from 3. The first one was from the gentleman, I don't recall his name, but he did a presentation on using your simulators for training. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that we spend all this money putting together this software and this hardware, but the truth of the fact is, when it comes to the learning or applying that to real world scenarios, first and foremost, the least thing you should be using your simulators for is actually flying the plane. That's the easy part. Flying overall is so many other things, and the simulators come in so handy with the other things, such as talking with ATC. You can do that with Pallet Edge, taxiing around, simple things such as taxiing, going through checklists, processes and procedures. You can really get your more bang for the buck using your simulators for that, because if you don't know where, say, the fuel pump is in an aircraft, and you go take a lesson either, where's the fuel pump? You're burning, valuable time, because instructors and planes aren't cheap. But if you get that same model of aircraft and you have it in your computer, you can go through the same scenario over and over and over and master it, and save a lot of time for when you actually have to pay for your flying. So that was the first one. The second one, when the Explain folks got on and did their presentation, I was like, oh my God. I mean, I know we want to keep things real, but these guys, like, really over the top. I mean, when Austin went up there and said, okay, well, we know that the fuselage of the aircraft creates lift. So what he did was he got this thing put on top of his car, and he's racing down the highway, and I'm thinking, oh my goodness. And then he came up with this.
There's like a torpedo hanging out.
Exactly, on his car. And
I can just see Austin doing it, and I can just see him talking about it too. Anyway, yes.
Yeah. You can actually see it because he has photos. Yeah, he has pictures of him inside the car with the rocket. The thing going through the roof. Yeah, there are photos, so you can see it.
And those tools they give the developers to where they can customize the physics with regards to the effects, the explosions, the fire. And I'm thinking, I was going to upgrade to a 64-bit sim, and I wanted to go P3D. But after I saw that presentation, I'm double, revisiting my decision, because what they have to offer and where they're going with the next version of X-Plane 11, I think it's 11.3. I mean, what they're offering is just, it just blew me away. And last but not least, infinite flight. Okay, so flight simulation on a mobile device. I mean, I thought it was pretty cute, when they first came out a couple years ago. And then they came out again this year, and they had a big old booth, and I'm thinking, okay, there's got to be something to it. So I went to their booth, and I got the little tablet with the little plane on there, and I'm sitting there, you turn and you make your movements by, moving the device, and you'd be amazed how addictive it is. And it's only $5. Seriously. So it's a niche within a niche. And I was impressed that they've been able to do what they've done. So those are the three big things that I got out of the conference. That and Vegas is jumping, man. It was I was like this all the time. Like, whoa, look at all these women.
It was lit, fam. It was lit.
Guys, let me ask you both a question. You guys are not new on this conference event thing, and although it was the first FlightSim Expo ever, but you guys are not exactly new on this, and you've been present at FlightSimCon last year, and you've been around for quite some time. It seems to me that the amount of people present at FlightSim Expo was actually a surprise for you guys. Was it the biggest one ever you ever visited?
Yeah.
It's the biggest one, period. It's been growing every year.
It wasn't that different. I was going to say, the numbers, if I remember correctly, because FlightSimCon last year was just shy of 900? It was 850 or something?
It was 8 something.
Yeah,
I think 800-ish,
so
yeah.
It's not that big a thing, but I think it's the... I don't know, just as an independent observer, I would imagine it's the location that sort of really got a lot of people.
Yes, definitely.
There were 2 basic factors that contributed to that. The actual number, by the way, was 1,107 attendees.
Oh, damn.
The location was definitely a huge thing. I mean, come on. It's Vegas. I've never been to Vegas, so for me, that was a whole new experience. And by the way, Eagle Dynamics, thank you. You got it right. I'm looking on the approach to McCarran. I'm looking out at Lake Mead, and I'm like, oh, my God. The watercolor is exactly like DCS. I'm comparing real life to DCS. But the second thing, too, because of the fact that it was in Vegas and there were things for like other family members and whatnot to do, a lot of the attendee count were the +1s. So you had the spouses, you had the kids, and, other family members and whatnot. My good buddy Austin, one of my favorite viewers, he and his dad came down from Idaho. They live just in the Boise region or whatever. And his dad has like no experience with any of this kind of stuff. He just knows it from what his son has been doing. But even he had a great time. He was like getting into VR and stuff like that. So Vegas facilitated that because of the fact that it's such an appealing destination. Now, with that having been said, it's Vegas. The city never sleeps. It's like 2 o'clock. I'm outside in my purple suit, no less. And there's wall-to-wall people every 5 minutes like, can I take a picture of you? I just wanted to get out of the hotel. So with that in mind, as far as what they might want to do next year, I mean, yeah, Vegas is great, but maybe not so much the Flamingo, maybe like a different part of Vegas that's a little less populated, but still close to where all the happenings are. We left, when was it that we had left? I think it was Friday evening, before you had come in, Drew. We decided that we were just going to kind of walk around the area and explore a little bit of Vegas. We got as far as Caesar's Palace, which is like literally across the street from the Flamingo. That was as far as we could get. No way we were going to make it all the way down the strip. To this day, I still have no idea what the rest of the strip looks like, except in passing.
You know, in a way, though, that's actually good, because it means that, and I think it really ties into what you're talking about, because one of the things, you know, as much as I love FlightSimCon and the years that I got to go there in Hartford, the fact is, it's in the butt end of nowhere. Like, you know, there is nothing around. Like, there really is nothing.
Right.
So, if you're looking at it, and let's be honest, the vast majority of us have some form of attachments of partners, children, you know, parents, whatever, who, you know, if we...
hermit life.
But, you know, we want to, you know, we all need to find a justification, as it were, to actually, you know, do what we do and go to places we go. So, because, you know, I'm not going to lie, I know I need to do it for racing. So, being able to go somewhere where there is something to do for the family, and for those plus ones, as you mentioned, Drew, is, I think, actually really, really important. And I think that's, I think that really does play into, as you said, as really like an advantage as to why they got a higher number.
Yeah, well, one of the things that worries me about the FlightSimExpo next year is that they're talking about covering other cities and going to other cities. And
no,
I'm kind of afraid. Do you think so? Because
no.
They're asking the community about it. I would love it to be in Vegas, because I hope to join you guys in the FlightSimExpo next year. So I'm working in order to be able to do that.
Look, I have a fundamental thing about this, and this was actually ironically the double-edged sword about FlightSimCon, was the fact that they grew steadily, because although they have the disadvantage of having nothing around them, they were consistently always in the same location. Yep. So you knew where they were going to be every year, so you can plan about it. And there's been some efforts to try and get flight sim conferences underway in Australia and in other places, which have not got off the ground because they are inconsistent. And I think that I mean, a lot of the team from FSExpo have been involved. Were involved with the for FlightSimCon for a while. They really should know that they need to know they know it's the consistency that's got to get them. So changing the location.
I hope not.
I would disagree. So, okay, maybe
Right.
okay. So maybe as Drew said, somewhere else within Vegas. Okay, maybe I wouldn't suggest going too far out of town, but maybe somewhere else within Vegas. But Vegas it still needs to be a consistent. You pick somewhere and you stick with it. And quite frankly, just from an independent sort of perspective, it's a lot more practical, especially for international visitors, to get to Vegas than it is to get to Hartford. Dallas would have been was actually easy for me. So
I could see that.
Sorry, I know I wasn't there, but that's just my observation and my engagement with other ventures around the world. Which is my always thing is that, and it's a lesson I put my YouTube channel, is that consistency is the key. So you need to have consistency. So
Yeah. Agreed.
No,
Yeah.
I agree with you 100% on that one. I really do think that they should have it in Vegas. And I'm not just saying that because I never got the opportunity to see the Hoover Dam from the ground. I saw it from the air. But I would love to go back to Vegas. I mean, number one, they talk about that dry heat. I got off that plane, my asthma disappeared completely. I'm like, holy crap, where has this been all of my life? And number two, just from, I like to walk, basically. I'm a walker. There's plenty of places to walk out there. So it's just absolutely amazing. But my big thing with any of these conventions has been more the timing rather than the location. See, I don't care where we go, honestly, because I just love exploring. I'm not so sure I want to do it in June when the temperature is 106 degrees and those plus ones that I mentioned before are stuck in the hotel room with like gallons of water just to stay cool. Yes, it is a dry heat, but it's still freaking hot.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah.
My big thing also with that, as much as, you know, I love having something to do in the summer, like having a summer vacation, it still creates an issue for us because we are missing stuff like Eagle Dynamics. We would love to have Eagle Dynamics there. Everybody running up to me talking about where's DCS, where's DCS, where's the Eagle Dynamics didn't show because it's the same time frame as E3, which is a major gaming community convention. So I mean, they would be fools not to even, you know, make a presence there to try and bring in new customers and whatnot. I think in order for this to be successful and have like the biggest draw possible, we need to move that time frame away from E3. FlightSimCon, they did it correct in a way, except I think it should have been before June rather than in the late end of June. But they were able to get Thrustmaster there. Thrustmaster bailed on FlightSimExpo because E3.
Yep.
So if they can, if they're going to continue to have two separate conferences, I would suggest that they have one closer to the beginning of airshow season. So we're talking like April, May-ish. And then one closer to the end, like around September, October, before everything really gets crappy around the world. That's just my 2 cents on it.
Well, you know, to me that makes sense. That makes logical sense because let's be honest here. What we do is an indoor hobby. So it keeps us indoors, so it keeps us going more through, and again, going back to that, it's not just about us, it's also about those that, you know, are in our circles, so our family, partners, children, all the rest of it. So we get to spend more time doing what we love during the winter months. So when is the best time to sort of have your conferences? At the start and the end of that period. So you sort of, as we're coming out, so as you're saying, sort of looking at the sort of, you know, the sort of, you know, April, May sort of time frame as we're coming out of that period, and then again sort of, you know, around the end of the year, maybe around sort of October, you know, sort of as we're going back into that period. So yeah, I definitely think, and that's something why it has always slightly perplexed me why any of the Flight Sim conferences are done in June. Like, it did always perplex me why FlightSimCon did their thing then. Because for me, that's not when you're going to get... I mean, the only thing I can think of, I suppose, is that they're trying to aim for the school holiday season, I suppose.
Probably, yeah.
But
yeah, I could see that.
But again, though, the fundamental clash is that we are still dealing with, and, you know, I can feel the hatred comments coming already as I'm about to say this, but we are still part of the gaming community, and at the end of the day,
we are.
The gaming industry revolves around E3. Whether you love it, hate it, like it, doesn't matter. It's a fact. It revolves. You know, this sort of software development gaming industry revolves around E3, and the announcements that happen there. So we need to play off that. We need to respect the fact that that's where a lot of our entry and our new blood is going to come from, and we need to then play off that. So I just think we need to look at that. Sorry, yes, Sergio.
Question to you for you guys, just out of curiosity, and in the same line that we were talking about, school vacations. How many kids were at the expo? How many kids are actually attending the expo? Because I see these events more as for guys like us, you know, guys that, you know, already left school years ago and have their own jobs. And I think I saw a few kids there going with the parents, but is this something for the kids? Is school vacation something they should worry about, in your opinion?
If I may say, what I noticed or what caught my attention with regards to most of the participants at the conference, a lot of them were kids and a lot of them were their grandfathers. Okay, and seriously, and I thought there were more kids at the Hartford conferences compared to this one, but the flight sim community, a lot of it are aspiring pilots, and I think we should consider that or keep that in mind whenever they make a lot of these arrangements. So that's definitely a factor. Yeah, a decent amount of our community are kids. That's one of the reasons why FSX is still hanging on. It's cheap. You know, it doesn't require a lot of hardware to run. Otherwise, otherwise they can't afford to go with the major, P3D 4.0 or X-Plane 11 and all the add-ons that go with that. They can't afford it.
What is it? What is it? $10 versus 300.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm about that. Yes. Yeah,
okay, disclaimer: we're not going anywhere near the license conversation. But anyway, but no, I think that's interesting though, and I think that's also, in a way, I think the organisers do think about that, and I think Sergio as well. I think even going back to the time I spent at FlightSimCon and seeing the speaker lineup at FSExpo and at FlightSimCon this year, there is a lot of that conversation around, and Andrew, you mentioned as well the fact that we're talking about how to use a simulator for training and how to use the thing and using it for procedures and stuff like that. And the fact is that something that's underestimated by a lot of people is that the graphical fidelity that we have on our home sims, whether it be Prepared, X-Plane, hell, even FSX, is actually better than the graphical fidelity of most commercial sims.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that is true.
The graphical fidelity actually has nothing to do with your simming experience. It's to do with the procedures and stuff like that. So it's a very interesting sort of counter dynamic. I see thousands and thousands of posts, and we spend thousands of hours of trying to drag an extra 2 frames out of my sims. But fundamentally, it's actually more about the procedures and stuff like that. If you're wanting to make it, as a certain tagline is that as real as it gets. So yeah, I think that's an interesting consideration, and interesting that you sort of highlighted that. Do you feel that there was? You mentioned that you still saw a lot of kids there at both, sort of did some at FlightSimCon. Was there more opportunities? Like I know that the CAP was present, had a big presence at the old Hartford shows a few years ago. Was there a CAP presence, or was there is Embryo Riddle? Is that the one?
Embryo Riddle was there.
That was
there. Yeah, both of those entities were there. They didn't have as big a presence as, say, for example, the previous FlightSimCon that we all went to in Connecticut, but they were there. I didn't see the guys from STEM, which was a little bit of a letdown for me, because I mean, if you have that many kids there, the perfect time to engage them in something that's rooted in education is right there. What was the comment that you had made, Drew, regarding FlightSimCon, that it seems like FlightSimCon has become the more grown-up expo?
I noticed that,
to expo.
Yeah, when I saw all the FlightSimCon promotions leading up to it, a lot of the presenters, a lot of the exhibits, I thought was very. They were talking about, professional, people talking about real world applications for simulators and whatnot, and they had engineers, from these various companies or simulator designers or airlines coming to talk, and I'm thinking, wow, FlightSimCon is like the grown up or the serious conference regarding flight simulation.
They didn't have Maverick though.
They had a Maverick simulator there, or a Maverick impersonator, what do you want to call it? So it was a Maverick simulator. Yeah, it was a Maverick simulator. Yeah, and so when I saw their lineup of their speakers, I was very, very interested, and I really wanted to see more coverage of the presentations, and unfortunately, I didn't see much.
Mm.
All I saw was the content that the organizers for FlightSimCon actually recorded and put together and posted. That aside, nobody took. I don't think anyone took the time and effort to, do a lot of videos of the various presentations and exhibits, which I thought was a shame. I was really looking forward to it. I mean, if I had the time and money, I would go to it. Even though it wasn't as big as FlightSimExpo.
I think you just hit the nail on the head there. Is that, again, it comes back to what we talked about before about having two conferences that represent two very important parts, but different parts of the flight simulation community, so damn close together.
Yeah,
like that's just it's
with
not viable.
And the only way you can actually see something in them, and we have mentioned this on our previous video, is by attending. So there's no service. Again, I gave the example of BlizzCon, where we pay a fee for to have access to streams, to official streams, and you can see panels and you can see anything. I'm not, with these, I'm not saying that the videos from you guys, the fans that were there, are not important. They are important, and they are even more important when you actually talk to the developers. And I think that should keep, they should not prevent you from doing that if they're doing official paid streams. I think the official paid streams should be of the presentations, of the panel. So when people are talking, they should have
that's the official stream right there.
FlightSimGuy was official stream of, and that's true. Let me thank you, FlightSimGuy, for your videos, which were amazing, and I love them. So I'm taking this opportunity to thank you for your work. And the thing is, stuff like Bel Geode, the other Drew was doing, and you were doing that. You're talking to people, to developers. Fans and YouTubers and websites should be able to continue doing that and talking to developers. But I think they know that presentations and panels should be streamed officially by the organization. And I wouldn't mind to pay between $5 or $10 or $15 or even perhaps $20
all they need
for
is a
the
Twitch
ability.
channel. You can subscribe to it, and that helps support the convention right there.
Yeah, that's the thing, for the ability to see these panels in good definition, good sound. I'm not saying that your video was not good. It was good, but having these panels in a professional way would be a great way for people that couldn't attend the event, one or the events or both events, to watch them from the other side of the world.
And I think a really important thing about this is that at the end of the day, and this is true for all four of us, and for all the other simulation YouTubers that are out there, we do this because we love it. There is no money in this. Like, there is, we do this because we're passionate. We love it. Sorry, bro. Your dreams of millions are just sorry to crush them for you. We do this. We do this out of our personal time, personal investment, because we believe in it. We love it, and we want to give to the community. Fundamentally, yes, we are the de facto media of de facto reporters and press corps of the simulation genre, but fundamentally we can't afford to do two cons back to back. Like, we can't. Preach. Again, if they're separated by 6 months, then it's more viable as an option, and we can get time together and we can split together. But there is no way that you're going to be able to have simmers that can take essentially a month off work to do two conferences. Like, it's not gonna happen.
Plus the expenses, right?
Exactly. So
it is, and it's not cheap.
It's not cheap to do this. So I guess that's something for the organizers to consider as well. And look, we fundamentally and I gonna sort of go on here, but definitely in my opinion, I think both organizers do organize great conferences, especially the guys at FSExpo. I mean, their first one for them. I mean, a lot of the team had some experience, but their first one went off really, really well. FlightSimCon got the experience, and it looks like they've done a quality conference has been produced again. Unfortunately, overshadowed by the shiny newcomer. But fundamentally, guys, we support you, you support us, but we need to sort of, everybody needs to sit down and talk again. I think it's, I think getting
Kiss
that,
and make up.
Kiss and make up. Yeah.
getting those lines of communication going between everybody is really, really important, because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We want this community. We want our community to thrive. And I'm actually going to pick off one of the things you said, Andrew, with Infinite Flight. Like, I am stunned by Infinite Flight. Watching it, because I was sort of similar to you, but I remember first seeing it on the App Store probably like 4 years ago, thinking, this is nonsense, this is rubbish, what is this nonsense? And then I saw the presentation 2 years ago, and I was like, yeah, still not taking it, still not believing it. Then last year was like, maybe there's something to this. And I've been just keeping an eye on the background and going, you know what? They've done amazing work on a very limited platform. And again, I look at things like Aerofly, and Aerofly. I
was just going to say. Yeah.
I remember, Drew, you used to say when I put my review out, I absolutely slaughtered it. It was awful. It was rubbish.
Oh my god.
But I did point out at the time that the foundations were there for something very decent. And now I've got Sergio banging on my door, telling me how amazing it is, especially when it comes to VR and helicopters. So, you know, this is the thing, is that great things can come from this community when we talk and when we communicate and when we get to engage with each other over events like this. So I think that being able
I just remembered. Sorry to interrupt. I just remembered, Sergio, I never answered your question. IPAX was there with Airfly, FS2, and VR setup, but they did not bring the R22 setup.
No.
The only thing that entire weekend that was there for helicopters was Santiago with Nimbus Simulations. So shout out to Santiago. We need more helicopters.
Yeah.
So that was actually going to be my question, like, because that was one of the things that Sergio you mentioned, that, and I know that in an editorial you published over helisim.com, there's a bit of concern that that you know, and I must admit that I'm a little concerned as well, because I see this over-representation of tube liners. I see this over-representation of tube liners, and that concerns me, and I feel that hopefully maybe, you know, helicopters might be the way back into that. Like, DCS sort of takes care of the flight of the military stuff, but helicopters, like, are we seeing more movement in that, Sergio, or?
I surely hope so. And let me take 2 minutes to you know, put my helisimmer hat on now and talk about it.
This has been a paid presentation from
where's my sticker?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
This portion of the broadcast is sponsored by.
Yeah, it's by helisimmer. Okay. There's you guys know that Drew Bel Geode, our older Drew in the show, you know, kids a lot and says that I'm a professional nagger, and because I nag everybody and everybody knows me, and you know, I just knock on the doors of everybody and say helicopters. Yeah, and the poor guy
it's
had
like
a hard
Jehovah's
time.
Witness of helicopters.
Excuse me. Have you heard the good word about the cycling?
No, seriously, the thing is, okay, I did wrote about it, and the underrepresentation of helicopters, and there's a lot of background work that I do with helisimmer that's not visible to anyone. You know, I have a website, and you guys see that. We have articles, and you guys see that. We do videos, and you guys see that. But there's a lot of invisible work that unfortunately I cannot disclaim. But it's a shame that no one knows about it, because, you know, if people knew about it, they would realize what I'm trying to do and the amount of work and passion that I'm trying to put into the hobby and get helicopters to have a higher voice inside the flight sim community, inside the flight sim community. So the thing is, I've been working, and I am working on the background with several companies and organizations for events to see if we can have a lot more helicopters and a lot of more presence of several companies, and not just companies, but, you know, community members and everybody that loves helicopters be present on these events. it's not an easy task because it will depend on companies themselves.
Right.
But I do know that for 2019, at least a couple of companies are seriously considering. They said they would going, so I'm just saying that they're seriously considering going because it will depend on the date of the event and the location of the events, and we're still almost a year away from it, so a lot can change. But there are companies that have told me they are going. They have heard the community. They have heard me. They have heard everybody that is part of the community, and the community is growing. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but the helicopter community is growing, and the voice is getting stronger, and we're getting the word out, and we have more people coming into this specific part of the market, and we have more developers and more companies listening to us. So yes, I do hope we have more companies next year. I know there's at least one company or two companies going to Cosford this year, and I'm going to be at Cosford. Yay for me! I'm going to be present at the Flight Sim Show event in Cosford.
Say hi to Amy.
I will say hi to Amy. I know she's going. It wasn't supposed for her to be there, but she's working at ARP, like you guys know. So I'll be talking to Amy, and I'll be meeting a lot of guys from several companies there. So yes, there's at least one company going to Cosford this year, an European company going to Cosford this year, Komodo Simulations, the guys that do patrols, and I hope to see a lot more. And I am talking with Ivan from FlightSimExpo to try and do something next year to attract more companies and make this possible. And having this small market niche inside the next event. So yeah, okay. Helisimmer, hats off. I'm working on it. I'm trying, guys. So let's hope everything goes right.
So
you have to be there next year. I'm just gonna throw that out there. You have to be there next year because the entire weekend. I got there Thursday afternoon. I left Monday. There was not a single day that went by throughout the entire weekend where somebody didn't come up to me and say, "Where's Sergio?" At one point, I'm like, "Am I Sergio's secretary here? What? Sergio's halfway across the world. What do I have?"
Bel Geode. Now Helisimmer CEO's PA.
I'm going to send you some business cards.
So we're going to use that caveat to throw over to you, Drew, to say, what were your... So we've had Andrew's 3 takeouts. What were your 3 sort of highlights and takeouts from your experience at FSExpo this year?
For the expo itself, one of the things that I concentrated on was kind of getting the pulse of the people. I wanted to, know firsthand what it is that people got out of this. And of course, I ended up putting that up as a video. One of my big takeaways was the fact that there were more newer people that were coming in, no matter what their age. I mean, I was running into like retirees or, former airline captains and stuff like that are all showing up. And there seems to be, I want to avoid the cliche, but there really is no way of doing it, a golden age, if you will. It's like this has become another golden age of flight sim, and probably the first time since Microsoft was at the helm. We're at the point now where we're starting to see a little bit of maturity in the sims that we're starting to use. And of course, they're getting the communication out. They're actually, bringing in the people. When you have an event like this and you run into so many new people that are coming into this and, they're just like taken aback by this whole thing. The one common thread that I noticed amongst all these new people is they thought they were alone in this. So from a networking standpoint, of course, everybody recognizes the hat and they recognize the voice. So they're all coming up to me and they're all saying the same thing. Wow, I didn't realize so many people were into flight simulation.
Yep.
That is probably the most crucial thing about having events like this. The whole networking and the whole feeling of family that comes out of that. Especially from all these people who used to do this stuff in real life, when they're shaking your hand like, hey, if it wasn't for seeing what you do, I would never have realized that, this community's here, or if it wasn't for this, that, and the other. That's just probably the most amazing aspect to me. And the biggest takeaway is the fact that, there are more new people coming in, and we need to keep them coming in. Stuff like the helicopters, like I said, big, huge, massive area of opportunity for them. If they can get some more helicopter people in there, I guarantee you the demand is there for it. Even though helicopters are a niche within a niche, there are a lot more people who have either dabbled in it or who, you know, have wanted to, but are just looking for that right push. I ran into one guy that said he saves a couple of my videos because I always do a startup tutorial when I'm in a helicopter. Usually, I haven't done it recently. But you know, the knowledge is there and people want to learn it and people want to find others of like mind. Just like what I just said about the whole networking aspect, it's the same thing, but on a smaller scale for helicopters. I know that can be bigger. And then my third takeaway was the fact that there needs to be a bit more hardware. As much as I love to see, like, you know, the full A340 cockpit or even the Cessna cockpit that we had back in Connecticut, which wasn't there this year.
That's right.
I do want to see more hardware. I want to see the things that were being shown at like E3. They had this thing called a Capto glove, which could, in theory, revolutionize VR. Instead of having to rely on like mouse or the Oculus or Rift, the Vive touch controllers or whatnot, you now have a glove. You can physically do this and flick switches in your virtual cockpit. And if you want to, you can even control the aircraft. Video,
and that was so damn cool.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
it's available now.
Oh.
It's like, why wasn't this at FlightSimExpo or FlightSimCon? This is the kind of stuff, this is their target market, if you will. We're getting the most use out of it. We need more hardware like that coming in.
But
I've seen those gloves and they're incredible.
Do you feel, though, that it's partially a chicken and the egg scenario? Because really, up until 11.2 of X-Plane and 4.3 of P3D, native VR support has been pretty lackluster at best.
Yeah, and honestly, the only people who got it right were Aerofly. They've been doing it for how long now? A couple of years.
Yeah,
it was pretty much 1.5 for them when they.
Well, them and DCS, yeah.
Those guys from MyPax are always ahead of the curve. I was doing this gesture, like, you know, I'm not going to say anything, but I've been nagging. I've been nagging one of the companies developing gloves, and it's SensoryX, an European company, and these guys are working with IPAX and working with VR Motion, the guys that do the platform that I was going to try. And yeah, they're working closely with these guys to work on a sim which has a Cessna, a 3D printed Cessna panel with no instruments, but you can actually touch the panel.
Okay.
Yeah, so
you get that tactile feedback.
Oh.
Yeah, and
if it's 3D printed, it's not going to cost a bomb like you normally do for like controls.
Exactly. And stuff, so you actually see your hand inside the cockpit, and you can actually, you know, touch things, and you know, whatever you do, it translates to the sim. And I've been working and helping SensoryX, getting in touch with other developers. I'm not going to disclose anything else, but yes, I'm working on the background with some companies to try and get them to work together. And let me just add with something else to what you were saying, Drew. I would like to see more hardware, but not just the cutting-edge hardware. Because like you said, there's a lot of new guys coming to these events. So we need the plain old regular joystick.
Right. Can I just actually expand on that point as well? Is the fact that the cutting edge high end hardware is amazing. It's great. It is out of the reach of 90% of the community. And
that was a big comment that I had when I did my interview with the attendees.
What is the number one most common piece of hardware? And I have this hardware as well that is in use in the simulation community.
X52 Cytec.
It's just
no. It is the Logitech Extreme 3D Pro.
Yeah,
that
I
has
believe
been unchanged. That has been unchanged. And the X52 is not far behind. But the fact is that as a straight up stick, as an entry level, someone's got it. You got it in the back of your cupboard somewhere. It is cheap, simple, affordable, and the design hasn't changed since FS9, I think.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
It's
Look,
still
yeah,
being
that is
produced
true.
to this day.
Yeah.
It is cheaper, yeah.
I am
Guys, I've been at
and
the,
it's perfect.
yeah, I've been at you know, the poor relative of events here in Portugal. We have done a couple of events, of simulation events here in Portugal, and we don't have any huge, you know, A300 cockpits or anything like that. We just, you know, there are some small teams of simmers here that just, you know, they are being sponsored by Thrustmaster, but they just bring the regular Thrustmaster joysticks, and they bring their own joysticks. And we have a whole lot of new people, people that didn't even knew flight simulation existed as a market, let's say. And a lot of the guys, a lot of the folk there that go there exit and say, okay, you have just managed to get me to spend money. And we're not talking about spending money on a new cockpit, a new A300 cockpit or anything. They are going to buy their first joystick. And there's this, you know, newcomer market that can be explored, and it can be shown to people that go to these events, because you don't have just the guys that fly airliners that have been flying airliners for 20 years. You have the newcomers, and you have the guys
that's a very key market, because and this is
it
something
is
that
it is
that
and
we've talked about before, is the fact that, you know, we are in danger of pricing ourselves out of existence.
That's right. That's right. And you do have the guys with the Logitech, but, you know, they want to upgrade, so they want a better joystick. They want to see the Warthog from Thrustmaster, for example. I had the opportunity to try a Warthog at one of these events. I don't know anyone with a Warthog, so I tried it at one of the events. And I was like, yeah, okay, this is, if I wanted to buy a new joystick and I had the money to get the new joystick, I would probably get this one. And brands don't realize this. You know, they go to E3, okay, there's a market there, but, you know, these events is where the guys that
That's your target
want,
market.
these are the guys that want, that need the joystick, that need pedals.
Yep.
At E3, you have guys that want to buy consoles or new games, or, you know, you have a smaller subset of the guys that visit E3 are interested on joystick, but 100% of the guys, I would say, that visit, you know, air show events or air sim events, they need controllers, they need joysticks, they need yokes, they need this stuff. So these guys need to be there.
And again, I think the really important thing is that and I think Thrustmaster have the right balance. They've got their high end equipment with the Warthog, but they also have the entry level mid range with their FCS system. And I have both. I have the Warthog. I have the Warthog system, and I have the FCS setup, and they both are brilliant. They are solid, reliable, and the FCS is, you know, very affordable. And I think that it's a very underestimated. And I really believe that. I know Honeycomb. I think it's Honeycomb. I think that's the company's name. They're working to sort of produce a new line of aircraft controls that are high quality but low cost, and that's, I think, a really nice goal. So.
And that was another company that was supposed to show up that I don't think actually showed up for Expo. So.
Anyway, so that's going to wrap up our episode of the Three Grumpy Simmers with our special guest. So I do want to say, so thank you very much. Don't forget, guys, to head over to both FlightSimGuy and to Bel Geode's channel to have a look at all their Expo coverage from FSExpo this year. There's some great stuff there. You can also pick up. You can also see it on X-Plane's official channel with their official media release coming from FlightSimGuy. So congratulations. So FlightSimGuy, thank you very much for joining the Three Grumpy Simmers. I hope we haven't grumpied you too much.
Thank you very much for having me. I had a good time.
What time? Yeah, he's grumpy.
Thank you for getting up at stupid o'clock in the morning for this one. I want to say once again to my two normal Three Grumpy Simmer colleagues, thank you very much to Sergio at helisimmer.com.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
And thank you very much to Thank you very much to Drew for Bel Geode for joining us with his purple hat as always. And of course, my name's been Novawing24. Thank you very much for joining us here on the YouTubes or possibly on our podcast on Podbean. So for all the links in the descriptions down below. Now I'm going to give a quick shout out as I wrap this one up. Is that in case you didn't know, the 3 Grumpy Simmers, we now have a home on the interwebs. So head over to 3grumpysimmers.com to get your backfill, to get your fill, and all the information behind the episodes, as well as all the things in the description down below. As I said, you can also catch us now either on YouTube or you can catch us on Podbean on a app on a mobile device near you, so you can listen to us without having to look at us as well, which is probably a better way of doing it.
That's a benefit.
That's a benefit.
Probably a benefit. Anyway, all right, folks. Thanks very much for joining us. Don't forget, take care, stay skies to all, and we'll see you next time on the 3 Grumpy Simmers. Bye for now.
Ciao.
Bye, guys.
Bye.